What's up, superstars? It's Phil here. On this video, we're gonna talk about how I wasted $9,000 on our t-shirt business. I'm gonna talk about some lessons learned here and what you can do to avoid those mistakes. Now, before I get started, I am gonna say that I'm not gonna talk about the company that we worked with. I'm not here to bash on any company. I understand that companies out there are trying to make money here. So we're gonna take this as a lesson learned. It is a $9,000 investment, but hey, I'm gonna take the value out of this experience and I'm gonna use it to progress forward. So I'm not gonna talk about the company that we're using, but I'm gonna give you a back-end story to exactly what happened. So we've been screen printing for over 10 years, and this actually happened about 5 years ago. So what happened was, we're always hustling, we're always trying to get the latest, best product out there. And we always go to these ISS shows, which stands for the Impressions Show. And so what we did is we went to this show. We were looking for new ideas and new machines out there to help optimize and make our business a lot better. So we're used to seeing a bunch of M&R machines, huge rock machines, but we started to see 5 years ago a new trend come out. More digital printing. What we're seeing is a DTG machine. And these are basically direct to garment printers. And what this does is exactly what the title is, direct to garment. And you're basically printing from a digital printer, your CMYK colors directly onto the garment. So how this is going to be a game changer is that you're able to do smaller but full color runs with just one single printer. Now this idea is going to be a game changer. We knew right off the bat that this was a great idea, but we have not dabbled into it. We did not even try it yet, but it just seemed overall like a great idea. We started seeing different companies pop up and different machines pop up. Now we work with M&R machines. We have fully automatic machines that take up a bunch of real estate. I even have a 20-foot gas conveyor dryer. So space in California, it is very scarce. It is very expensive. So the thought of just owning a small digital printer and being able to do full color runs, that just made total sense for us. Plus, we catalog over 3,000 screens. Now with 3,000 screens, that takes up a lot of space. So again, the idea of DTG printing with just using the DTG machine, using a pre-treat machine, and just a heat press, and you're able to knock out most of your prints, man, that's gonna be a game changer. So we really want to take the leap of faith there. So being screen printers, one of the things that really held us back before was the ability to do colors. It is not a very cost-effective way to do color. Now, for example, if you're doing a 5-color screen printed job, you're gonna need 5 of these expensive screens. You're also gonna need to create a white base layer. So that's basically 6 screens in order to do 1 color design. Now, if you're just doing this for a sample for a photo shoot, that is gonna be a very costly expense. You're talking about 6 screens, plus the extra work to separate the colors and then to create the base layer. That's extra added cost and time just to do one simple design. Now with DTG printing, now that's gonna be a game changer because we knew that you're able to knock that out with just one simple printer. So what is this DTG process? It is basically direct to garment. Now I'm gonna basically summarize exactly what you do in this process. You're basically loading your artwork onto your computer using a RIP software. You're choosing either a light or dark color garment. You're adding pre-treatment solution to that shirt based off of a light or dark garment. You're gonna need to add more pre-treatment for darker shirts. You're gonna be curing that pre-treatment solution on the shirt. You're gonna be printing directly onto that shirt afterwards. And lastly, you're gonna be heat pressing that design so that it adheres and stays intact. So that is basically the DTG process. So after doing our initial research, what did we end up doing? We went ahead and purchased our first DTG machine. Now we want to take baby steps here because we weren't sure if this process was for us. So we purchased actually a converted L1800 printer. Now this printer wasn't the quickest printer out there, but the print heads weren't that expensive and the overall printer wasn't too expensive. It was about $3,500 when we originally purchased it. It had a sliding platen, which was really helpful, which I'll get to later on. But we went ahead and purchased this. It was about $3,500. Now we also purchased a pre-treatment machine. We've seen videos where people were using spray guns, They were using the spray guns to put the pre-treatment on there, but there was a lot of inconsistencies out there. The spray wasn't very consistent. We, at this point, wanted to at least invest in a good pre-treatment machine that was consistently going to spray the pre-treat on the shirt. So we went ahead and invested in a Pearl Elite. That was pretty expensive at $4,500, but again, it's a good brand. We knew that we could resell it worst case scenario. So we went ahead and bought that for $4,500. So buying the DTG machine for $3,500, we bought the Pearl Elite for $4,500, and we bought some ink and cleaning supplies. All in all, we were all in at $9,000 at this point. So I was ecstatic at this point. We got the machine, we got the pre-treatment, we got all the ink and supplies. We went to our shop, we loaded everything up, we installed the RIP program. We were just ready to print our first full color design. So we loaded on our Heather Gray t-shirt, we printed our design, and man, we got an absolutely nice full color design in that small space. I went ahead and took that home, I washed it, and bam! We lost about 50% of the color, everything was faded. We were in a huge disappointment at this point. We took photos of the final product, we went ahead and sent it back to the seller of the printer machine, and they told us we need to increase the pre-treatment here. So that's what we did. We went back to the shop, we printed out another design. This time we added more pre-treatment, but what I noticed that it was thick. It started to get crunchy. You started to feel a layer of pre-treatment on there. It really wasn't the way that I like to deliver a t-shirt. I personally did not like it. I thought it was gonna be smooth and buttery, but I felt the pre-treatment on the shirt, especially when you're dealing with dark garments where you're gonna have to increase the percentage of the pre-treatment. The shirt just gets crispier, it just gets crunchier. That's not the way to go. But anyways, we went ahead and printed this design again. We took it home, we washed it, and boom, the color stayed on there, but it was still crispy. It still wasn't up to what we call a great t-shirt. It wasn't executed the right way. So this process did work for a few jobs that we had, especially the smaller prints like this where you're not gonna have to pre-treat the whole shirt. We were able to get full color designs done. It worked for a little bit, it worked for several weeks, but then what I started noticing was that I started getting banding on the shirts. There's no matter what I did, I just couldn't fix the banding. We did a ton of head cleans. It still wouldn't fix it. I did so many head cleans that I ended up having to do an ink waste counter reset. We just did so many things to try to fix this problem, but it was still banding. On top of that, I also noticed that the first few shirts that we're printing from the week were always not very white. The white was not very milky. It was because there was ink separation in the lines. So on top of the banding, every day we had to basically use a syringe to siphon out all the white so that the ink lines are gonna be filled with the new and mixed up white ink. That is just another step that we had to deal with here. But we got a lot of banding. I tried everything in our books to get it to work. I am really diligent with our process here. We created SOPs, which are standard operating procedures, to make sure that everything is done right all the time. But with these L1800 heads, it just was not consistent for the life of me. We ended up replacing the head after 3 weeks. And then after that, every 2 to 3 weeks, we also started having to replace the heads. We just couldn't keep him from printing without having banding lines there. So that was one of the things that we had to deal with this printer. Now, we eventually got a pretty big job. It was a 144-piece job for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brand. And we were really excited about this brand, and we were excited about being able to print their full color job here. We couldn't do this with screens because this job had about 9 colors there. It just wasn't really worth it. We wanted to just do it the DTG way, and we coughed out a sample. They were okay with it. But as we were printing this job, we were noticing that from the very first print to the 20th, 50th, and 100th print, they looked different. The color saturation was different. What I also hated about it is sometimes during either the middle or the end of the print, when it was almost done, it would stop. It would just stop and freeze, and you wouldn't be able to reprint this afterwards. You're basically stuck with a shirt with a misprinted shirt. And so this whole process of this particular job, it ended up taking us 3 weeks to do. And a 144-piece job, I ended up having to order 175 pieces just to fulfill this. So there was over 20 wasted shirts. Now, I don't know what you guys are charging out there, but when we were doing this process, we just couldn't find a good price point for the time it took to print and also the wasted shirts that it took to print that job. Now, after about 2.5 months, we've probably gone through about 4 print heads at this point. I reached back out to the seller with frustrations, telling him we followed everything by the books. We even created a standard operating procedure that we followed on a daily basis here. But they told me that basically it boiled down to our humidity, that everything has to be regulated, that environment had to be perfect. So what did we do? We went out there, we set up a controlled environment space for our DTG printer. We had a humidifier that created a micro humidity droplets, and so that it wouldn't mess up with the machine. We also had a thermometer interface where it would regulate the temperature and let us know what the humidity and temperature was, and if it dropped down to a certain level, we would be notified of that. So we created the perfect environment for our DTG machine. But guess what? We still had the same issues. This print head or printer just did not deliver the same consistencies from the first print to the 100th print, and that was a problem that we had. So what did we end up doing? Guys, I went ahead and shrink wrapped both the printer as well as the pre-treat machine, and we just basically left it as expensive paperweights. We just had that sitting aside for over 2 years. So guys, that DTG machine and pre-treat machine was basically sitting there as paperweights. That's how I lost over $9,000 on this print process. And that's why I'm giving you guys my honest opinion. When people ask me about DTG, I just have nothing really good to say about this process. It is just not a really good process. The colors will never be also as vibrant as DTF, which is what we've been specializing in. So I wanted to show you briefly before I get into the next part of this, what a DTF can actually do. Look at these colors. This is printed on our CMYK DTF machine. This is not fluorescent ink. This is from regular CMYK. I can let you know right now that DTG will never ever be able to print this type of color with this type of saturation and this much vibrancy. So let's take another quicker look. Now guys, there's actually an upside to this story. That $9,000 was wasted at the beginning, but guess what? The seller of the printer actually reached back out to me after a whole year, and they were trying to sell me a new machine. What they were trying to sell me was a DTF machine. Now think of it this way, it's similar to the DTG machine, but instead of printing directly onto the garment and sacrificing that garment to see the results, you're now printing on film. You're printing directly onto the film, you're curing it, and then you're gonna be able to heat press that design right onto the garment. Not only that, but this you're able to use on different things like a canopy, on sweats, on a bag, on canvas bags, and even a skateboard. So the idea of the DTF machine was phenomenal, and I was all in when I heard this. But I didn't want to just jump in and dive in and purchase this machine again. After talking to this seller for quite a while, I understood that, hey, maybe my DTG machine can be converted into a DTF machine. I have all the essential parts. The good thing about this DTF machine is that it actually had a rollout platen. So I was actually able to convert this by using that platen, that t-shirt platen, just adding double-sided tape behind there and putting the DTF film on top of that. And from this point, I was actually able to mirror the design and print directly onto the film, which this was going to save me a lot of money because I didn't have to go out there and do too much to convert this. All I really needed to do, again, was add the double-sided tape. I had to change the RIP program, and I had to go ahead and change out the inks and the new print head, and I was pretty much ready to go to achieve our first DTF transfer. Now this process wasn't perfect. There was so many hurdles that needed to be done here. We were one of the pioneers to take this leap of faith and try this process out. DTG's been around for a lot longer than DTF, but DTF is a greater idea, and if executed right, you're gonna get a much better product. So we tried to use this converted printer. We used it for several months. We got a couple jobs down, but we also saw there's a lot of inconsistencies with the prints. And it boiled down to basically the printer. This is a converted machine. It is not meant to do commercial continuous DTF. So after a period of time, we went ahead and retired that machine. I was able to sell that machine. I didn't get a lot from it because it was just a converted printer, but I was also able to get a good amount back for the pre-treat machine. So that was the main thing. And then we eventually invested in a couple commercial size printers, and that has been a game changer for me. But what I got out of this was I did initially lose out that $9,000. It was a big hit for us, but you always want to look at the bad and the good. And from that lesson, I learned how to basically print out DTF transfers without going through all the hurdles and all the troubles and all the struggles with that DTG machine. I would not be doing DTF. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. We wouldn't be creating awesome transfers, and our customers wouldn't be happy with our product. So we've added now our DTF process, and we've been doing that 90% of the time. We hardly even use our screen print machines now because it is more effective to print DTF. We love the product, we love the colors, we love the ability to do smaller runs. And even if you needed a sample run, you're able to print out that full color design without having to invest in a bunch of screens like this. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I hope you guys got some lessons that were learned and that were shared to you guys so that you guys don't make the same mistake as us. Now I know that DTG has evolved throughout the years, but that is just my personal feedback on what I think about that machine. And guys, I am DTF for life. I love the process, I love the machines. If you guys have not tried it out yet, what are you guys waiting for? Jump on that bandwagon. If you guys haven't tested out any samples yet, we offer free samples. Head to our website, order one today, we'll send it to you. You guys can be pressing by the weekend. I'll catch you guys on the next one. It's Phil here, and I'm out.